Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Adventures. And today we're going to be doing another episode of our Planet Zoo mod spotlights. This will be part 33. So we're going to be kind of winding down the next few parts until we get to the next 1.7 update. So we'll be getting a few of these in before that. So modding is going to be dying down a bit with new mods. So I'm just going to go through and cover what we've got. But we've still got a really awesome bunch. So we're going to be starting today. This one was made by Leaf, and this is a port from Endless Ocean 2, so made by ARIKA. So we're going to have a look at these little guys down here. Really interesting little bunch. We have got the Horseshoe Crab. Isn't these guys wonderful? So these guys are the Atlantic Horseshoe Crab, but are also known as the American Horseshoe Crab, are a species of arthropod. They're actually more closely related to things like spiders, ticks, and scorpions rather than real crabs. So these guys are more closely related to those animals. So these guys are found around the Gulf of Mexico and across the Atlantic coast of North America. And they make a annual migration from Delaware Bay along the South Jersey, Delaware Bay shore. So these guys have pretty interesting uses in terms of like their eggs were eaten using fishing bait, also in biomedicine. That's really important, and a lot of interesting ecology. So we'll get into that. So these guys get to about 60 centimeters long for females, and including their tail, and weigh about 4.8 kilograms. And there's also a bunch of different size variation within that because of the obviously Bergman's rule, with animals being more closely to the equator the smaller they get. So the largest are generally in the coolest areas. And they also have a really cool ability to be able to regrow limbs, similar to like sea stars. And we can see they've got this really cool anatomy to them. You can see they've got this prostoma, which is the spine-like tail here. It's called the talson. The prostoma is the abdominal region, as you can see here, and the third part is the ornithostoma, and that's the head there. Really cool. So the prostoma is the head, the ornithostoma is the body, and the talson is the tail. Just making sure you guys clear that up. So these guys are also really cool. They feed on a bunch of different things. They're like filter feeders, pretty much. And they use these book gills that they have under them, if we can get a good look under them, that they use to filter water. A lot of species you can find in them include like algae, flatworms, mollusks, barnacles, and protozoans. And they'll often be described as walking museums because there's a lot of parasites on them. And these guys also have large compact eyes that you can see, so they're able to see light and things. Really interesting. And the really interesting thing about the blood is that the blood of horseshoe crabs, like most mollusks, including cephalopods and gastropods, contain a copper. Containing copper, so protein hemocyan, and they have these really cool concentrations. And the blood is circulated to this creature that allows them to live in like low oxygen environments, so it's kind of helpful. It's one of the adaptions they have. And as I mentioned, these guys are the only living extant species of horseshoe crab native to the Americas. So there are other species that have been known. They're found from the Atlantic East Coast of the United States, ranging from Maine to Florida, and also found in places like Florida, Alabama, Missouri, and Louisiana. And there's an isolated population in the Yucatan Peninsula that may be its own species or subspecies. There's something like that, we don't know. So these guys feed on mollusks, annelid worms, and other benthic invertebrates, so they kind of filter through the bottom and then grab what food they can. Really cool. They lack jaws, but they grind their food with the bristles in its legs, so they don't have jaws per se. And they tend to come to the intertidal zone, or the area where the waves hit the beach. These guys will come into those parts of the spring tide, which is the highest tides of the month. And their breeding season varies depending on the population. The northern United population will breed through spring and autumn, and the southern population will breed year-round. And these guys come onto land. The females will reach the beach at high tide, and the female have laid a batch of eggs in a nest about 15 to 20 centimeters in the sand. The males will come and fertilize it with their sperm, and the egg quality depends on the female's body size, but it can range from 15,000 to 64,000 eggs per female, so they make a lot of babies. And their evolution is pretty cool. There are Traditionally grouped with Euripterids, or those extinct ski scorpions, but they're actually found to be a lot closer to the basal group, really. And other primitive arthropods, and that's where they've evolved from, relative to trilobites. And they may be more closely related to arachnids, like sort of in between there. And what's really interesting about these guys as well, this is kind of their issues in their conservation, is that they're a valuable species in terms of medical research, because a lot of the extracts from their blood cells is actually pretty good antibiotics, so that helps defend against a lot of diseases, especially from bacterial origins. So they have, unlike like rhino horn, where they kill a rhino and thinks whatever it is, this actually has some genuine. Let's have a look at this guy over here. This actually has some genuine benefits to their health and human health, so that's pretty cool. So that's been a big issue for them, like being collected and being kind of milked for their blood. It can be very stressful on the animals. That's another conservation issue. And they've been recognized as vulnerable by the IUCN due to overharvesting and habitat loss, but they are some populations are increasing. It's kind of, they're not like in danger of going extinct, that's why they're vulnerable. There's some populations and some things that are at risk. So in the United States, they were mistaken to be destructive to fisheries, and folklore, like everyone kind of just killed them. And even on Cape Cod in the early 20th century, 5 cents were offered for every dead horseshoe crab. And luckily they weren't endangered, but obviously this harvesting is not very good for the population. But luckily this is a good example of one of the first big conservation efforts. They were said, we don't want to decimate they were worried about the populations of animals like sea knots and such, which rely on the crab eggs to eat. So people did notice that and then started to protect them. So it's really, really cool. And each year about 10% of the horseshoe population dies when rough surf. And luckily there is lots of efforts to protect them, such as large-scale tags, and also regulate them, especially since their blood is very important for medicine. So there have been measures in place to try and regulate them, and that's really, really good. Really, really wonderful animals. So yeah, wonderful little horseshoe crab. Really, really cute. So now I'm going to be moving on to the next animal. So we're going to be moving on from crabs to monkeys. So I don't think that's a sentence you'd ever want to hear, but this one was made by Leaf and Monsoon. We have got this really cool monkey. Let's have a look at Lou. This is the Red-Shanked Douc, which is an old world monkey and is considered one of the most colourful of all the primates, as you can see here. This adult male, he's really wonderful looking. Really beautiful animal. So the Red-Shanked Douc is from Indochina, I mean. So it's found in Vietnam, southern Laos, and northeastern Cambodia. And between 1967, they were completely unstudied and have been found in a variety of habitats from lowland to mountainous areas, especially in semi-deciduous forests and primary and secondary rainforests. So they're pretty general in that regard. So like other Doucs, they're pretty long and slender monkeys, you can see here. And we might get a better look at another one over here. So this is a baby. We'll have a look at a female. So, is this a male? There's a female, but that's alright. So, the male has an average head to body length of about 61 centimeters long, and the female's average is 54.5 centimeters long, or about 24 to 21 inches, with the tail measuring about 58 to 76 centimeters, or 22 to 30 inches, and males weigh on average 11 kilograms, while the females weigh on average 8.44 kilograms. So as I mentioned, they're pretty much called the queen of primates because they are very, very distinct and considered one of the most colorful primates, which is, I think, very fitting of them because they are very beautiful. And you can see they've got these white forearms, also with dark and back legs, and also these bright orange faces with these red legs. Really, really interesting. I don't want to go into that in detail because you can just see how beautiful they are. So a lot of these behaviors, guys, these Doucs are found, social animals. They're found in social groups of up to 4 to 15, but groups up to 50 have been recorded. And these groups usually consist of 1 or 2 males, 1 or more males, and approximately 2 females. Both male and females have their own hierarchies within the group, and males are dominant to females. Both males and females will eventually leave the group that they're born into to prevent, obviously, incest. But Like other old world monkeys, their tail is not really prehensile like you see on the new world monkeys, and they use their tail solely for balance, and they use it to run around and do things. So these guys are also aerial specialists, so they pretty much just spend most of their time in the trees and moving high up in the canopy, and very agile, and they frequently make leaps of up to 6 meters with outstretched, and it's really, really cool. And meanwhile, we're talking about him climbing around, having a good time. Well, she is actually. Oh, it's a bit of a bug. We'll have a look at another one here. We'll just have to move around. So, mating for these guys takes place during August and December. We'll find a baby while we're talking about the baby. Look at this cute little guy here. So, between August and December, the pregnancy lasts about 165 to 190 days, which it usually gives birth to a single baby. Although sometimes they can have twins, but that's very rare. The young are born with their eyes wide open and cling to their mothers instinctively. You can see the baby's coloration is quite a bit lighter than the adults. And in short downy grey hair has a dark stripe, and you can see it looks slightly different. And as older, it gets darkened. The body darkens while the face lightens up, achieving adult colours at about 10 months. And also in captivity, other group members may look after the infant, and other females may even suckle on it. But in one study, an orphan infant was actually taken by 2 females and fed by 2 females. Was also cared for by a male, so they're pretty much very colonial and help take care of the baby. That's really, really cool. So these guys have a very diurnal, and they eat and sleep in the trees during the day. And the diet consists mostly of leaves high in fibre, and belonging to the subfamily Colubridae, or leaf-eating monkeys. It has a large stomach, which is divided into sacs that it can be used to digest, almost like pseudo-ruminant, and they use it to contain bacteria that helps digest the cellulose in the plants. And also they prefer to eat young and tender leaves, but they'll also eat fruits like figs, bamboos, flowers, things like that. They also get all the liquid and protein from these plants, so they don't necessarily always need to go to the ground to drink, though they will if needed to. This monkey eats about 50 different species of plants, but no animal prey, and also a very messy eater, so they drop their food all the time, and you can kind of use that to track them, which is really, really cool. And according to the IUCN, sadly, these guys are considered critically endangered, so they're listed on CITES 1. So far, the population, there's no research on the total population in Indochina, but the population in Vietnam is approximated to be about 1,300 individuals. So hunting is also a very, very big threat to these species, obviously for things like substance use and traditional medicine. And local people often hunt them for food, pets, or making glue. And for the population there, habitat loss is also a big issue because that's a developing area, especially around Vietnam. And really, really wonderful animal though. Really, really cool. Sad it's critically endangered. So now I'm going to be moving on from the monkey. We're going to be moving on to next one. So this one was made by Port from Endless Ocean, so it's ARIKA, BuffZoo, and GiornoPizza. So they've been working hard at that. We have got the Barracuda, or Bicuda, or a scientific name is Barracuda cuveri, which is a kind of a species of pike charon from the family Cynuridae. So these guys are pretty cool. They get to about 88 centimeters long, or 35 inches, and they get up to a maximum published weight of about 6 kilograms. They have 10 to 11 dorsal soft rays, 9 to 11 anal soft rays, and 48 to 49 vertebrae. They also lack dorsal and anal spikes, and is a carnivore, so they typically prey upon smaller fish. So these guys are a freshwater fish native to the Amazon, and it can be found in Peru and Brazil, the Orinoco River, and Colombia and Venezuela, and the tributaries of the Amazon, such as the Negro River, Maduro River, Tocantins River, and Angolan River, and others as far as Bolivia, so they are very wide-ranging. And furthermore, they can be found in the Essequibo River in Guinea, Suriname, and French Guiana, I believe how you pronounce that, and can also be found in found on the surface of areas with rapid flowing water, usually behind obstacles such as fallen logs or rocks. So they're one of those animals that do like faster flowing water. Looks like a really wonderful animal, doesn't it? Let's see if we can find another one swimming at the bottom. We've got one swimming there, or are they all on land? Let's have a look at this guy. Really, really wonderful. And these guys are also considered data deficient. That means they're not being really evaluated by the IUCN. So yeah, not too much about this guy. He's a very obscure species, but still really, really cool. Managed to get into Endless Ocean where they could port it. So yeah, awesome little mod here. So now we're moving on to something a little bit bigger. We got another one by Leaf and another one by Endless Ocean. So this is a port from Endless Ocean. So that's made by ARIKA, Africa, if you pronounce it, the company that makes them. We have got the Atlantic Blue Marlin. So let's see if you can find one swimming. Really, there he is. We'll go that one over there. Where are you? There. The Atlantic Blue Marlin. So, the Atlantic Blue Marlin is a species of marlin endemic to the Atlantic Ocean and is closely related to the species the Indo-Pacific Blue Marlin, or they then simply call it Blue Marlin. And some authorities do consider both species distinct, so they're related but most likely different. So you can see the Atlantic Blue Marlin feeds on a wide variety of organisms near the surface. It can be pretty much anything really, and they use their bill that you can see here, or sword, to stun, injure, and kill while knifing through a school of fish and other prey. So these guys get pretty big. The biggest females are more than 4 times heavier than the biggest males, but to really exceed 160 kilograms. The longest female can reach up to a length of 5 meters, or about 16 feet long, and from the bill to the eyes to the tip, and that encompasses about 20% of their body length, the bill. Body mass for the largest female has been recorded from 540 kilograms to 820 kilograms, or 1,190 pounds to 1,810 pounds. And the largest blue marlin ever caught by angling rules was in Brazil, which weighed 1,402 pounds, or 636 kilograms. And fishermen often refer to eventual marlins that reach exceed 1,000 pounds called granders. So they're grounder ones. So you can see here they're very charismatic. They got this really cool dorsal fin here and all that. So these guys are found around the year-round around the tropical oceanic waters of the Atlantic. It does extend into the northern and southern hemispheres during the warmer month, and it contracts to the equator during the cooler months. So when it's warmer, they'll kind of go to the temperate areas, and then when it cools down again, then go back there. So the blue marlin also exceeds past 35 degrees north and 35 south, and is less abundant in the eastern Atlantic, where they mostly occur around the coast of Africa. And the largest number is usually found in waters warmer than 24 degrees, but blue marlin can be found in surface water as high as 30 degrees and as low as 21. So they do like their warmer water. So these guys reach maturity, they have few predators, and the most important probably being large pelagic sharks such as the short-finned mako and the great white shark. They also have a bunch of different parasites such as copepods, cookie cutter sharks, barnacles, tapeworms, roundworms, a lot of that. So to get into their life cycle, adult Atlantic blue marlin reach sexual maturity at about 2 to 4 years old, and males reach sexual maturity at a weight of about 35 to 44 kilograms, and females 47 to 61. So the blue marlin breeds through the late summer and fall, and females may spawn as many as 4 times in one season. They often release over 7 million eggs at once, each about 1 millimeter in diameter, and few of them reach sexual maturity. So the baby of the Platonic offspring drift through the ocean's pelagic zone, and larvae have been collected in western central Atlantic off the coast of the southern United States, Jamaica, the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. So they grow, actually the babies grow really fast. The larvae will grow as much as 16 millimeters in one day, and that's when they kind of live basically as plankton until they get big enough to breed, which is very far off their adult size. So the larva itself will feed along a variety of zooplankton. As they progress, as they grow up, they'll eat a wide range of fishes. They'll eventually get to like mackerel, tuna, squid as adults, and eventually will, especially near oceanic islands and coral reefs, they will eat pretty much whatever they can. Studies of the stomach contents show that schooling fish such as frigate mackerel, bullet tuna, and skipjack tuna make up a very big part of their diet. And squid and deep sea fishes such as pomfret and shark mackerel also important prey items. And blue marlin have actually been recorded to take prey as large as white marlin, as well as yellowfin and big eye tuna. and the 100-pound range. And conversely, they're also capable of feeding on small, numerous prey such as filefish and snakefish. So that's pretty cool. Also, they are very important for commercial fishing. People eat them in fish sashimi, and they're also like a trophy fish because marlin fishing is very fun. And the blue marlin is under intense pressure because of this. And in the Caribbean alone, they take over annually over 1,000 tons of marlin per year. So that's quite a lot. And all vessels within the 200-mile coast of the US are required to release any billfish caught. So that's obviously marlin, but also things like sawfish and things like that. And their survival rate is low during capture. They're considered a threatened species under the IUCN. In 2010, Greenpeace International added them to their seafood red list, so should be eating that. Sports fishermen have been in the forefront in efforts to conserve the population. That's very good. The initial efforts were to develop electronic tags to track these migratory fish, as they carried out with marlin in Hawaii. And combination, a lot of anglers have been working together to try and conserve the species, which is always really awesome to see. These species are believed they're considered vulnerable by the IUCN. Yep. And still really cool animals. I really love that marlin. So as I mentioned, that was by Leaf and ARIKA. And we have got ourselves a little like remake again. So we're going to move it on to... This was made by Mergie. She made this before, but she's done it again. She remade her Eurasian Lynx. So it's a really nice lynx here. So the Eurasian Lynx is a medium-sized wildcat that's spread throughout Eurasia in pretty much everywhere. They're found in Northern Europe, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Siberia, and as well as the Himalayas. Very huge range. And found in temperate to boreal forests up to elevations about 5,000 meters. And they have been doing pretty well. These guys get pretty big too. They are the largest of the lynx species. They get from 80 to 130 centimeters long and stand about 60 to 75 centimeters at the shoulder. The tail also measures about 11 to 24 centimeters in length, and on average, males weigh 21 kilos and females weigh 18 kilos. And the largest ones are from Siberia, where the species has been known to get up to 45 kilos reported for big males. So that's very interesting. I really love these guys. I like the climbing as well. I love the climbing in this game. So, the Eurasian Lynx lives in the rugged country, as I mentioned, stalking opportunities. They feed in rocky steppes, boreal forests, mountain forests, pretty much whatever they can. We've already covered this guy a bit, so I'll just kind of do a revision of that. So, these guys hunt during the day when food is scarce, but they're mainly nocturnal or crepuscular. That means they only come out during dawn and dusk. And they have territories that can range from 20 to 250 square kilometers and will travel, mark these with scents such as feces, urine, or scrape marks that they use to define their territories, and also will make growls and meows to communicate with each other. Also, they have a very generalist diet in their range. They feed on like all sorts of animals such as hares, rabbits, dormice, lots of rodents, muscelids such as martens, grouse, foxes, wild boar, young moose, roe deer, red deer, and other ungulates and stuff. So they're very generalist in that regard. Pretty much anything that's big enough to eat, they will. And these guys, reproduction, they mainly... the mating season usually is from January to April, and these... typically comes into estrus. The female will come to estrus about once during this period, where this lasting about 4 to 7 days. And once she gets pregnant, the gestation will last about 67 to 74 days, and females will make a den. Well, obviously, the babies will be born, and the den is lined with deer hair and feathers and grass to provide bedding for the babies. Oh, these kind of run. So at birth, the Eurasian Lynx will be born at about 240 to 430 grams and open its eyes about 10 to 12 days. where they initially have this greyish fur. They look very, very cute, and they begin to seek solid food at about 6 to 7 weeks old, and then they begin to leave the den, but are not fully weaned until 4 or 5 months. And then the den is abandoned 2 to 3 months after the kittens are born, but the young will stay with their mother for around 10 until they're about 10 months of age, and they'll reach sexual maturity at about 2 to 3 years of age, and they'll live for 21 years in captivity. So, luckily these guys are considered I think they're considered least concern. Let me check. Yes, they are least concern, so they're doing quite well, but in lots of areas within their range, especially in Europe, they are restricted. So, a lot of places it's illegal to hunt lynx, and also there's been lots of efforts such as rewilding in Europe. Rewilding Europe has been making sure to try and reintroduce populations where they used to be, and working with their close relative, the Iberian lynx, which is very endangered. There's only about a few hundred left. Still a really nice one. I used to think I preferred the older one compared to her new one, but I actually think I like her new one more. I really like this one. I think it looks great. So yeah, we're going to be moving on to the next one. So we're going to move on to another cool animal here. This is going to be the Scallops Hammerhead. So we'll have a look at the Scalloped Hammerhead. We've got so many around here. Wonderful animals. Let's see if we got any swimming. We'll get Rowan swimming down there. There's one swimming down there, I see. Really wonderful animal. So this comes from Beyond Blue, one of my favourite games to come out last year. I really love Beyond Blue. A really awesome game. So this is a port from that game. That's by E-Line Media. So this is Scalloped Hammerhead. Another critically endangered species on this list, sadly. So the Scalloped Hammerhead is obviously it's the name Hammerhead from its hammer-shaped head. Don't need to really tell you about that. So these guys typically get to about 1.5 to 1.8 meters long, or about 4'9" to 5'9", and generally weigh about 29 kilograms when they reach sexual maturity, with larger females getting about 2.5 meters or 8'2", about 80 kilos at sexual maturity. The maximum length of these guys has been 4 meters long, or 14 feet, and a maximum weight of 152 kilos, or 336 pounds. These guys also have a very high metabolic rate, that governs behavior in acquiring food, so they have a very high metabolic rate. That means they're active hunters. That's pretty cool. So these guys are considered a coastal pelagic species, and they occur over continental and insular shelves and nearby deeper water. They can be found in temperate and tropical waters across the world, pretty much. They've been found around Africa, the Caribbean, Hawaii, Australia, and Asia. And these guys they often are seen during the night, day, or morning in these big schools that you can hear, sometimes numbering in the hundreds, where they can obtain food easier than single sharks, and especially with larger and trickier prey. The younger the shark, it's closer to the surface, but the adults are usually found much deeper in the water. And they also have this really cool sexual dimorphism there. You can see the females are much larger than the males. And they probably use that as sort of because they need to be bigger to support the pups. And they tend to be females will usually obviously give birth to a bunch of pups, and they're capable of give birth annually, usually in the summer, where the male to female ratio is usually 1 to 1.29, so there's a little bit more females than males, I think, if I read that right. And these guys have several advantages to capture its prey. It uses the shape of its head to burrow in the seafloor to pin stingrays. It also has lots of special sensory cells that you can put on the front here that allows them to detect electromagnetic pulses from the nerves of animals, so it can tell if an animal's sick or something, and I think that's pretty cool. So the gestation period for these guys lasts about a year, 12 months, and compared to other sharks, they produce pretty large litters, and this is most likely due to the high infant mortality. And like most sharks that don't really have parental care, and nursery groups of the species are predictable and be seen all year round. Their natal sites can also still cause high infant mortality, so only the fittest really survive. Similar to turtles, they're very are selective. And they also have migratory behaviors, so that means they will move where they can find food, and they're actually slow to mature in some areas. So I mentioned these guys are opportunistic, so they pretty much eat what they can. There's no difference in diet between males and females, but they will eat things like sardines, mackerel, herrings, cephalopods, octopus, Also stingrays, as I mentioned, and they also actually feed on other sharks as well, such as the black tip reef shark. They've been known to eat them, so that's pretty interesting. Let's move to another animal while we're talking about them. I love this model, such a nice model. Really fits Planet Zoo. Anyway, so for their conservation, as of 2021, they have been listed as critically endangered, so overfishing is a very big issue for these guys as well. Scalloped Hammerheads are over-harvested for their large size and their high fin meat content, and their fins are usually sold for $100 to $120 per kilogram in US dollars. So that's kind of messed up, obviously, for shark fin soup. And being big predators, it's very hard for the numbers to replace themselves, and in parts their population have declined over 95% over the past 30 years, which sucks. And as they reasons for this drop of overfishing and the rise of demand for shark fins, so obviously making more money, so it's an incentive, which is very, very bad. And they're often overfished in other parts of the world as well, and there's estimated about 1.3 to 2.7 million fins are collected each year from smooth and scalloped hammerhead sharks in the shark fin trade. So that sucks. So yeah, we should probably stop hunting for shark fins. It's not good for the environment, and these guys are very important for ecosystems. They're large predators, they regulate the numbers of other animals. So yeah, we're going to be moving on from the Scalloped Hammerhead. So that was made by GiornoPizza and Eline Media, who made Beyond Blue. We're going to be moving on to the next one, made by Leaf, and of course, Port from Endless Ocean, ARIKA. We have got the Commerson's dolphin. So it's a really cool little dolphin. I love these guys. So the Commerson's dolphin is also known as the Skunk Dolphin or the Panda Dolphin, which is a very cute name. They are found around the southern tip of South America, with a bunch of different subspecies also found around islands around that area. So a very restricted range, like their close relatives like the Maui's dolphin and the Hector's dolphin that live only in New Zealand, just an example. So there's two distinct populations. There's one that's found in the Falkland Islands around there. The second one is found around the Kerguelen Islands in the Indian Ocean. They prefer shallow water. These guys aren't very big. They're one of the smallest of all the cetaceans. They only grow about 1.5 meters or 5 feet long. A mature female was caught off the coast of southern Patagonia and weighed about 23 kilograms and about 1.36 meters or 4.5 feet long, and making it the smallest adult cetacean on record. And although it resembles a porpoise, it's got its behavior and it's got a little beak, so that means it is not a porpoise. Porpoises don't have a little beak there. So the sexes can be easily distinguished from each other, as well as the different shapes of the black spotches on their belly, and with the males having like a teardrop and the females are more rounded, so that's pretty cool. And mating also occurs. Let's find the baby. Let's find our little baby here, because we got a baby. Where is that little baby boy? There he is. Look at how cute he is. Cute little baby. So we'll talk about breeding. So their babies are usually, you can see the females will reach breeding age about 6 to 9 years old, and males reach about the same age. Mating occurs in the spring and summer, where calving occurs after a gestation period of about 11 months during the spring and summer. The Commerson's dolphin has also been known to live up to 18 years in the wild, and in captivity, the oldest individual was at least 33 years old at its time of death. So these guys actually do pretty well in captivity, unlike most other cetaceans. In some places like SeaWorld keep them. I know you're resting on the shore, but that doesn't matter too much. We'll see if we can find another one. This must be one over there. There we are. Have a look at you swimming. Really wonderful animal. So these guys are very active. They're often seen swimming around the water surface and spins and twirls like other dolphins. And they feed on a mix of pelagic squid and coastal squid and fish. So they pretty much eat whatever they can. And those in the South American population also supplement their diet with crustaceans. And they've even been seen entering the Santa Cruz River to forage during low tide. So that's pretty cool. So the IUCN considers us least concern by the... so that's good. But the issue is, since they all are pretty shallow water living dolphins, there is risk of these guys getting caught in gill nets, and that's pretty common. They're also killed as a crab bait as well, which sucks. But luckily their populations are pretty stable, unlike animals like their close relative, the Hector's dolphin. There's some issues there, but overall these guys are doing pretty well, so that's why they're considered least concern. Really, really awesome animal. So we're going to be moving on to the next animal as well. We've got another one come from Endless Ocean too. That's Leaf and ARIKA, but also ported by Leaf. We've got a really cool animal. We have got the Basking Shark. So yeah, this enclosure might be a little small and I might have put a little too much, but I think it's still awesome to see them regardless. And look, he hasn't got his mouth stuck open. I would love to see an animation with his mouth open. So, what is the Basking Shark? The Basking Shark is the second largest living shark and fish, second only to the whale shark, and one of the 3 planktonic eating shark species that include the whale shark and the megamouth shark. So these guys get pretty huge. I believe the adults will typically reach lengths of 7.9 meters, but the largest individuals will get like about 4 tons as well. Historical sightings have mentioned ones about 12 meters, including 3 that were estimated to be about 12 meters long, but it's really hard to get good evidence of these guys. There's lots of different estimates and things of these guys. So yeah, these guys are a cosmopolitan migratory species that are found pretty much all around the world's temperate oceans. So they're like a cooler water version of the whale shark. They're a very slow-moving filter feeder, and their common name describes how they basically open their mouths at the surface, and it looks like they're almost basking like a lizard. That's pretty cool. They also have some really cool anatomical adaptations to filter feeding, since they have these very, very big mouths, and also the extended gill rakers that they use to filter water, so they can filter the plankton into their mouths and down into their throats. They also have very, very many teeth. They're not very big like other sharks. They're very small. This also helps to filter. So yeah, I think these guys are really cool. They do not hibernate, but they're also active year-round. In winters, they can be seen in deeper depths, even like 900 meters deep or 3,000 feet, and have been tracked to make vertical movements consistent with the feeding of overwintering plankton. So they're always feeding all year round. Very, very good. They're also a very slow-moving shark. They feed at about 12 knots or about 3.7 kilometers or 2.3 miles, and do not evade approaching boats, and are actually not attracted to chum, as they don't feed on fish, they feed on plankton. And even though they're large and slow, they do breach. There are images of basking sharks breaches where they jump and where they can believe to do it to dislodge parasites, or even just do it for fun potentially. Yeah. They're usually solitary, but during the summer months they can aggregate around dense patches of zooplankton, which they engage in social behavior. They can form 6 segregated schools that can be usually small numbers, but have been reported to be up to 100 individuals. And some small schools have been seen swimming tail to tail, which is pretty cool. Basking sharks also have very few predators, and they have been white sharks that have been seen scavenging on these guys. Also, killer whales have been hunting these guys, feeding off basking sharks off the coast of New Zealand and the US. But as I mentioned, also these guys feed on plankton and small animals, very small fish and invertebrates. So they're ram feeders, where they basically just open their mouths, swim through, and whatever gets caught in the mouth that's small enough will get filtered. The water will get filtered out, and then the rest will go down its throat. So they're not very particularly picky. And unlike these sharks, they actually rely only on the water to push through its gills, so they don't push them themselves. Because whale sharks will also pump water through their gills. They just open their mouths and just swim and just let anything that comes in come in. So these guys are also ovoviviparous, which means they develop embryos in the egg sac with the yolk sac, but they have no placental connection, but they are held within the animal's body. So the babies will be held in the mother's body until she gives birth, and then kind of just go off and do their own thing. So gestation of these guys, we'll have a look at the babies while we're talking about them, because they are very, very cute. Really cute little baby shark. And gestation lasts about a year, with small through unknown number of pups born. They're fully developed at about 1.5 to 2 meters, so pretty big when born. One pregnant female had been caught, and she was carrying 6 unborn offspring, so that's kind of generally what we know, maybe 6 or fewer than. And mating usually occurs at the early summer and birthing in the late summer, following the female's movements into shallow water, so that's where they usually give birth. The age of maturity is thought to be around 6 to 13 at a length of about 4.6 to 6 meters for these guys, and breeding usually takes place every 2 to 4 years. And the exact lifespan of these guys is sadly unknown, but they have been estimated to live about 50 years, maybe more. So apart from direct catches, bycatches and trawl nets, have been also really big issues for sharks. As I mentioned, shark fin soup's another big issue. So they also get caught in bycatch, which is never very, very good. And after mass catchings, these guys have been, there's been a lot of protections put in place for basking sharks, luckily. And the population, the eastern North Pacific population is considered of concern, and it's one species the US government's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Commission has some concerns and put that under the population under the Endangered Species Act. And they're listed as an endangered species by the IUCN, so there are risks to their population. Especially climate change is a big issue since they live in temperate oceans. And but overall, they're not doing too bad. They're just like big sharks, and you shouldn't be hunting them. Same issues really with the Scalloped Hammerhead in that regard. So yeah, I think that's a really cool animal that we just talked about. So now we're going to be doing the lucky last animal, and we're not looking at sharks. We're looking at one of the coolest animals. We got the third largest land animal. This was made by NicholasLionRider as part of a Savannah pack, and also ported by Leaf, I believe. We have got the African forest elephant. So there's the male here, really wonderful. I think this itself is a bit small, but still a really incredible model that I love. So the African forest elephant is one of the 2 living species of African elephant. So you have the African bush elephant that's already in game, and then you have this one, the African forest elephant. So they are the smallest of the 3 living elephant species, with a shoulder height of about 2.4 meters for males, but males have been known to get up to 3 meters tall, so still quite big. And have been found to live in groups, and they have these really cool downward tusks that you can see at about 1 to 3 years old, where it starts to sprout. So yeah, these guys, as I mentioned, you have a grey skin that can look yellowish or brownish after wallowing, and they also have sparse hair, and he's got these large ears like African elephants that they use to display, but also to dissipate heat using blood vessels. As I mentioned, the bulls reach about a height from 2.4 to 3 meters, or 7.9 feet to 9.8 feet, and females are smaller. They get about 1.8 to 2.4, so that's about the height of a person at the shoulder. They also reach a weight of about 2 to 4 tons, and footprint size can reach about 12 to 35 centimeters, or 4.9 to 13 inches. So definitely one of the smaller species of elephant, mainly because they live in a habitat that's very close. As I mentioned, they're a forest elephant. They live in the Congo basin, so it's very restrictive for them. And these guys live in family groups like African elephants, but slightly differently. They tend to go off by themselves and then congregate around forest openings. Groups have been observed to be generally about 3 to 8 individuals, but groups up to 20 have been observed in certain areas, consisting of adult cows, their daughters, and their subadult sons. So pretty much what you expect in normal elephant society is very matriarchal, along with bachelors living on their own or in herds. Family groups tend to travel around 7.8 kilometers per day, and they move around a home range that's about 2,000 square kilometers. And the seasonal movement is related to the availability of ripe fruit in these rainforests. And they also use also a complex network of permanent trails that they maintain to be able to get to areas such as salt mineral licks, and also what's really cool is also in their ecology, a lot of other animals such as gorillas, forest buffalo will use these trails that the elephants make to move through the forest. So also, which is cool as well, they're herbivores. They feed on a bunch of different things such as tree bark and leaves, and at least 72 different species of fruit, which they have been seen. They're also very important for moving plants around their ecosystem. When they eat a fruit, the seeds will pass through their gut, and when they poo next, that will help the babies survive, the little seedlings. So they're very important in these forest ecosystems to maintain these rainforests. And a lot of seeds, they'll actually germinate faster when they've been through an elephant, so it's very important that these guys are conserved for these forest ecosystems. And like other elephants, they have very slow reproduction, probably the slowest, since they have pretty specialized habitat as well. So females reach sexual maturity at about 8 to 12 years old, depending on the population density and the nutrition available. On average, they begin to give birth at about 23 years old, and give birth every 5 to 6 years, and as a result the birth rate is lower than bush species when they start to breed at age 12 and breed every 3 to 4 years. So they are slower breeders than the larger bush elephant, since these guys can invest a little more than the other bush elephant species. Baby elephants weigh at about 105 kilograms at birth, and almost immediately they stand up and move around, allowing the mother to roam around and forage with the baby keeping up, and then they will suckle from mother's teat, as you can see here, which is actually under her armpit, like people, unlike other animals such as horses and cows, where it's behind the back legs. So that's pretty fun. And forest elephants generally have a lifespan at about 60 to 70 years and mature slowly and come to puberty at about early teens, kind of like humans. And bulls generally pass puberty within the next year or two of females. So at about ages 15 to 25, the male bull elephants will experience must. We'll have a look at the female while we're talking about them. So the male will go have must, and then he will leave the group, similar to African bush elephants, and kind of just do his own thing and go around and try and find females that will mate with him. So that's kind of it's not too different from elephant societies. It's just a little bit slower, since these guys have a little bit more of a specialized habitat. So really, really big issues for these guys. They were just recently split fully by the IUCN just a couple months ago, and are considered critically endangered. And a lot of these issues is especially for hunting for ivory, especially poaching. And since these guys are much slower breeders than African bush elephants, that puts them even more at risk. So often they're hunted for the black market, for their tusks, which is especially called like pink ivory, which is extra rare and expensive. Also, they've been eaten for the bush meat trade, so people will eat them as well. Also, conservation is it's really hard to do because the Congo is obviously in war. Also, it's very dense, and it's been hard to study them. But it's actually really sad, because the African forest elephants are estimated constitute about 1/3 of the elephants' populations on the continent, and there's not been that as much study on them, which sucks. And I also learned about elephants who have poor night vision will navigate their environment using early hearing and olfactory systems, so they will smell and hear around their environment. And they have been seen in areas with more people that are more active sexually during the night compared to the day, especially around people, just to avoid them. A really nice elephant there. But one really cool thing about the evolution, there's been a lot of evidence that these guys bred with extinct animals such as Paleoxodon, so extinct relatives like Paleoxodon Ricky and animals like that. So really, really interesting to have some gene flow with that. And one of the three ancestors, believed to be descended from one of the three ancestors of the straight-tusked elephant. So yeah, that's a little bit cool about these guys. So yeah, a really nice mod by NicholasLionRider. A little bit small, but I'm sure he can fix that if he feels like it. But a wonderful model regardless. So I think this would be a great place to end the video, people. So yeah, I really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to click the little bell icon to get notified when I upload anything. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.